Before starting and introducing this presentation, we would like to note that we have virtual attendees also. So in order to include everybody, it's preferable to submit your questions through the JNUC app so that everybody can see them. But if you can't figure out how to do that, asking live is okay too. I'll just repeat the question so everybody can hear. And with that, welcome to Migrating Endpoint Security from Sophos to Jamf Protect without pain by Dwayne Moss.
I've got a mic. Okay, and especially since we got a light crowd, if you want to ask a question, that's fine. But hold the clicker. So the title is kind of a mouthful. We'll get into it. But I'm Dwayne Moss from MC Services, and I'm certified in 200, 300, and 370. And if you are thinking about using Protect, the 370 course is phenomenal. It's really, really good. And it emphasizes part of Protect that's really good, how well it's integrated with the Apple security framework, namely Gatekeeper and Xprotect. So I'd be remiss if I didn't put in a plug for Jamf Heroes too. Go ahead and visit them at the booth downstairs. They'll do a much better explaining of it than I will, but it's a really nice way. It's kind of like, since I talk about push and pull notifications, it's kind of like you get new stuff pushed to you, and if you read it, you get points versus having to go up and look for new items, because there's so many things on the web now, it's hard to keep track of stuff. But when something new comes out, they usually have what they call a challenge on it. You get points for just reading a blog post or something like that. You can exchange those points for swag and other things. And actually, you can get credit for taking Jamf training courses too. So replacing Sophos with Jamf Protect, why would you want to do that? Well, last year, I came to JNUC, just like you guys are here now, and I learned about Jamf Protect more and more. And I'm Security Plus certified, and this new thing that's coming out in security called Endpoint Detection and Response, how many people have heard of EDR? Okay, what that means is instead of the security app just looking at files all the time for signatures, Jamf Protect actually integrates real well to see what's happening on the computer. Like if you did a screenshot, it could alert you. Because maybe somebody doing documentation should be doing a lot of screenshots, but if your CFO's computer is doing a lot of screenshots, you might want to know about that if somebody got in and started playing around. It also has integration with CIS, which is the Center of Internet Security. They have standards 1 and 2. The other security standards that are important in the US are NIST standards, which more governmental stuff. But what you'll find out is a lot of people are getting nice little emails from their insurance company that they have cyber insurance with. What's your security plan here? And this is kind of a really nice first step to making sure you're up to date with it. Obviously, Jamf Protect has great integration with Jamf Pro, real easy to deploy with Jamf Pro. Doesn't require an MDM, but and I've integrated it with Mosul, but Jamf Pro just does a wonderful job, obviously. And you can have different plans for different people in your organization. Like if you have developers, maybe you want to know, you don't care if some funky stuff in terminal is going on. But in your accounting department, if something's going on, you might want an alert on that. And same thing, there's customized levels of notifications there too. So you don't get barraged with a lot of different alerts. And most importantly, it's easily configurable or deployable by a config profile. So it isn't some separate installer that you got to go in and try to, sometimes you have to physically touch each machine, but you can just deploy it, and just like anything else, it gets deployed. So we're going, okay, I came back from JNUC. I told my compatriots, oh, this is great. We're going to deploy this. And I sold the customer on changing over from Sophos to Jamf Protect because it's going to be so much better. Okay, so we want to deploy it. So, okay, we'll just run that Sophos uninstaller, package it up and set it out, configure Jamf Pro, and deploy Jamf Pro, oh, sorry about the slides there. Deploy Jamf Protect. That was a bad plan. Anybody ever think, oh, this is going to be easy, and then they get into it. It's a little harder than you originally thought. Why was it a bad plan? Well, here's the screen of what Sophos installs. And I thought, well, look at this. There's this nice remove Sophos endpoint app. Everybody loves uninstallers. You just run them and they get rid of what they put on there originally. The uninstaller didn't work because we tried running the uninstaller and Sophos says, hey, what's your password? What's your removal password? So even though it was packaged up and I sent it down, it just kind of hung. So do a little research. I never realized Sophos in their control panel had tamper protection. So I go, okay, we'll turn off tamper protection. Now we'll run the uninstaller. So the uninstaller worked, but boy, there were a lot of files left. I mean, what was nice, the uninstaller killed Sophos, so we wouldn't have to reboot, which was one of my deals to install this behind the scenes so people didn't do it. But I noticed there are a lot of files there that it didn't do. So I'm looking at what files are there? Can we figure out a way to figure out those files? So we looked at the logs. I looked at the logs. Everybody who here likes to look at logs? Okay, nobody. So I go, okay, let me look at the preference files. Obviously, there must be preference files stuck around and things like that. That wasn't quite great. So turn to the great old tool, run a snapshot with Composer to see what exactly that Sophos installer put in. How many people here aren't familiar with Composer? Good. So this was the weirdest deal that I ever saw for a snapshot of an app. So it installed stuff all over the place. It's almost like this was a company that usually did stuff with PCs and not with Macs. I mean, their antivirus is pretty good, but so we looked, user local bin. Okay, I can get rid of those. Then you look in the library folder, and I wish I had a scrolling deal. This went on and on and on. And you see a couple folders there. You got not only in the application support, you got a folder, Sophos Antivirus folder. You got library Sophos encryption. Sophos has an agent that you can say from their web control panel to turn on file vault encryption, which is fine, but they had a whole bunch of files for that. And they had another uninstaller in the encryption part, which I was like, do I want to run that too? And then we finally got into launch daemons and frameworks. So if we look, we've got our launch agent, our framework, and the launch daemons there. So we've got a lot of stuff there, and not all of it was, some machines, the uninstaller didn't always remove everything. Then we had private ITSE security, so another folder. Then, of course, local user library preference, or library local user preferences. And finally, applications. So about that time, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Well, need a new plan. So extension attributes and scripts to the rescue. So how many people here have written an extension attribute? Okay, if you haven't done it before, try it. They're phenomenal. What I did was created an extension attribute that would search for files that were left over and just alert me. And then also, and we did that with a script. So the steps to remove leftover files. First of all, we wrote an extension attribute to check for computers that had any remaining files in it. And if you know extension attributes, this is the extension attribute and the script a little bigger. I'm checking all these areas that files were originally installed, and this goes on and on and on. It's a bunch of, how many people here have never written a script before? Okay, so you see all I'm doing is checking for the presence of a directory or checking for a presence of the file. And then if any of those exist, I'm just going to say to the extension attribute, yes, that exists, that's in there. Then I created a smart group for computers with Sophos files left over. So I could tell what computers had those files still there. And of course, what did I have to do to get that extension attribute to actually return results? Anybody? Have to do an inventory upgrade. So, you know, I made sure that I got an inventory update, and then it ran sudo jamf recon and got me the value of the extension attribute. So just because you wrote that extension attribute didn't mean that it was reported. Okay? Then created a script to remove all the remaining files. And this is kind of a brute force deal. It's not real pretty, but it did the job. So if we look at the final removal script, I'm going into, and actually I think I created one a little longer than this. I go into all these places and remove files that Sophos left over there. So I wanted to get rid of all the cruft that was there. So we had you know, this again is so we wouldn't have to reboot the computer and wouldn't have to go back there again. Then wrote a policy, just created a policy to run that script on any computers in that smart group. And so there's the policy. Unfortunately, I should have turned on edit, so it got a little lower. But basically, I ran that script, then run maintenance to run another sudo jamf recon to update the inventory. So then I could see afterwards if there were any computers still left in that smart group that I had missed something. And then the easiest thing, install Jamf Connect with a config profile. Is anybody here using Jamf Protect right now? Okay, a couple people. Deploying Jamf Protect is probably the easiest thing to deploy, easiest antivirus to deploy. And so if we look at the recap of the new plan, run Sophos uninstaller, do a policy to do that. Use the script in the extension attribute to check for leftover files. Then create an extension attribute to show the status so you can see if anything was left, because we know sometimes there are problems, but we tested before we did this, and then ran the script to remove the files, and then configured Jamf Protect. Oh, I can't believe I did this again. And then I deployed Jamf Protect, sorry. I do a lot of that stuff. But what was really nice from start to finish, once we got this tested, we basically could get all that stuff deployed in an afternoon. And the user didn't have to reboot and just went. So the computers all showed up in the Jamf Protect panel, and it worked. Okay, kind of short and sweet, but any questions? I don't know if any.
I'll come up and help you with the questions.
Okay.
We don't have questions in that have come up in the, app here.
Okay. Yes.
But-
Yes.
Have you ever found that the uninstaller didn't work? Because I've tried to uninstall it and it just says the uninstallation failed.
Did you have the tamper-proof turned off?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the one thing the uninstaller did do was it quit. It killed the process, which was nice because otherwise, since it's a launch daemon, I would have had to reboot without the launch daemon in there. So that's the one thing that the uninstaller did well. But, I could have probably figured out, start killing processes. But when it's a launch daemon, sometimes it could be like the dock where you kill the dock and it just restarts again. But what's really nice about this methodology, didn't have to reboot. It could all run in the background.
And the question was, have you ever had the uninstaller not work? And you mean for Sophos? Okay, that was a yes. You?
Yeah, just had a question about when you had wrote an extension attribute to check for the files that they existed. I noticed you had multiple result tags in the extension attribute. Are you able to run an EA with multiple result tags?
Yeah, what it is, it was just a really long nested is statement. I'd check one directory. If it found something, it would return yes and pop out of the script. If it would keep on going down and check. And my extension attributes just was Y, a big Y, so I could get a smart group for computers that had to be worked on.
And the question was about having multiple result tags in an extension attribute.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because if you ever want to check for the existence of files, sometimes you want to check for multiple ones, but I did them all in one. You could have created extension attributes for every location, but I was like, I started out that way, but I go, well, this is silly. I can just, if you do an RM on a file that doesn't exist in command line, it doesn't matter.
I was just going to throw out there, if you want to learn more about extension attributes, there's a session this afternoon Steve was doing on extension attributes.
Yeah, and I just love extension attributes. It's what differentiates Jamf Pro from any other MDM. And it really can be powerful. And if you learn a little bit about extension attributes and a little bit about scripting, you've just got another arrow in your quiver. And if you want to learn more about those, the Jamf 200 course does a very good job with that too. But just little bit of scripting, little bit of extension attributes, all of a sudden you can do so many more things.
The point was made that Steve Wood will give a talk on extension attributes later today at JNUC here. By an audience member, that is.
Yes.
Would you recommend taking the 370 course before deploying Jamf?
The question was, would you recommend taking this 370 course before deploying? At least take the 170 course to go through it and get a trial of Jamf Protect. Jamf Protect has a lot of extra power is below the seams. You can deploy it and it's really nice, and you can see how your fleet of computers or is in compliance. And it's really nice. I don't know if any of you have really undergone a security audit and then they say, is SSH turned off on each computer? I mean, they're all the one thing that I always think is funny is Bluetooth, is it displayed in the menu bar so you can see if Bluetooth is on? Is remote management disabled? They go through, do you have a minimum password policy? All of a sudden those things are right out in front of you. And they really align with security standards for hardening a computer. But the 170 course is a real good learn at your own pace intro if you get into a Jamf Protect install, I definitely take the 370 at some time after that, if not before.
The Bluetooth thing, there are attacks that have to do with reading Bluetooth signals from devices that have Bluetooth turned on. So I think that maybe that's why.
Yeah, it's just, you know, you go through the whole list of CIS standards, and they're things you never thought of before. And like, I still remember hearing that the vice president had to use wired headphones because they were concerned about people, you know, getting the Bluetooth when she was talking on the phone. And I was thinking, man, that's hardcore stuff, but nation states have a lot of power. Any other questions? I'll be here afterwards too if you want to take something offline, but thanks a lot. Hopefully it was useful. Okay.
Great. Thanks.